What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 134 of the Noizze Podcast, part of the Noizze Podcast Network, and sponsored by Satanic Co. I'm your host, that's your boy, Chris Pugh, and as ever, I'm joined by my very good friend and Mr. Cynical himself, Samuel Lewis. Mate, on this hot, horrendous Thursday evening, how are we?
I'm sick of reading "This is the hottest day of the year" until tomorrow, when that becomes the hottest day of the year, and then the next one does. Like,
It's wild, yeah.
when is this? When is this going to end, man? Like, I am
Honestly,
sick of it.
is there anything more classically British than it raining for 6 weeks and then being blistering and giving us blistering heat for the first week of September when everyone's got to wear suits again? Come on, dude.
Yeah, welcome
Did it
back to
have to
school.
happen?
It's 32 degrees. We don't have aircon in our classroom, so just opening the windows and just dealing with it. It is horrendous.
It's pretty rough, man. Yeah, and it's like, and we're not a country that's like widely invested in aircon, because if you think about, like, if you're a business and you open up, like, me and you open up like a store, we're not going to spend £14,000 on aircon when it's warm for like 3 weeks of the year. But
Yeah,
when it's warm for 3 weeks of the year, you really wish there was aircon, right?
absolutely. And you go to like holidays and hotels in like Spain and Portugal and those kind of places, and there's aircon everywhere, and it's amazing. It's just really sad, really, really sad state of affairs. But yeah, lots of fun to discuss. Upcoming on the podcast, at least, though.
Yeah, to cool us down, let's talk about one album that I think will rive you intensely, another album that will excite you intensely. So let's see how that goes. We're a rock and metal podcast. We come to you every fortnight. The best way to support us is by subscribing on YouTube/liking or following, depending on whichever podcast service you use. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, basically anywhere you get a podcast. Me and Sam will be there. We're sponsored by Satanic Co, a superb coffee/tea/metal band and brand. More about those in our description. On today's episode, we are going to discuss new records from Corey Taylor and Tesseract. Let's start with Corey Taylor. Oh, just before that, sorry, you can find us on Twitter at Noizze Podcast. Both me and Sam run that account, and you can follow the general Noizze handle on Twitter at Noizze UK. So, Sam, let's start with Corey Taylor. CM2 is out on September 15th via BMG/Decibel Cooper Records. It's Corey Taylor's second solo record and the follow-up to 2020's CMF2. Just a question for you, Sam, before we begin. I believe the reality is that if Corey Taylor retired as a musician tomorrow, he goes down as the greatest metal frontman of the 21st century. Any arguments?
Quick scan. No, not really.
In terms of impact,
Yeah,
stage presence.
he fronted the most important metal band of the 21st century by some distance, and even if he was just doing that and just a standard job, he'd be top five by virtue of being the frontman of Slipknot. But on top of that, he's arguably the most talented metal vocalist in terms of range and of different abilities, especially that first 4 or 5 years with the Slipknot and the Two Stone Sour records. I mean, from 99 to about 2006, he was like rapping, writing poetry, screaming, singing wonderfully, all within the range of 2 albums and stuff, or 2 bands and a collection of albums. It's as good a resume as any frontman in the 21st century. I don't have a personal argument for it. He's on the Mount Rushmore of modern day metal greats, and he should be considered, really. I mean, it sounds blasphemous, but you really should consider Corey Taylor alongside like Ronnie James Dio and Ozzy Osbourne.
Well, yeah, because Slipknot are the superstar metal band of the 21st century by a considerable distance. The only band that's close to them is Avenged Sevenfold. Maybe in another 3 or 4 years, possibly Bring Me the Horizon. But in terms of superstar metal band of the 21st century, by superstar metal band, I mean they could headline a festival tomorrow. You could book them in a stadium next year with a good support lineup, and it would it would sell an incredible amount of tickets. If it wasn't for COVID, they would have had their own cruise. Not Fest at Sea. They've got their own festival. Slipknot are the superstar metal band of the 21st century, and he's a massive part of that. Huge part of why that is.
and really outside of the 70s, Slipknot were metal's greatest cultural phenomenon by far.
Yes.
Slipknot were
Yeah.
appearing on like mainstream television and
Yeah.
like talk shows. And Paul McCartney gave an interview where he talked about them, and like they were they were just relevant to us. They were relevant to
Mm.
everybody from 1990 to 2002. Everyone knew who Slipknot were. Radio 2 played Slipknot singles when they came out. Like, put
Yeah.
that into perspective. It just never happened. Like, he's the front man of one of the most impactful, important bands in metal ever, period. No problems.
So with that, Sam, I remember I reviewed CMFT for I forgot which website it was now. That's irrelevant which website it was. Anyway, I reviewed CMFT and I did find it kind of hard to review because obviously knowing that he's just having fun, right? Like
Yeah, we
this
reviewed
is
it as well.
did we review it as well?
Yeah, because
Right, okay.
I know the songs on it, and that would be the only circumstance where
Oh.
I'd have known that information. And the reason that I know that we reviewed it is because there's one song on it that's brilliant called Home.
Right, okay. Do you know, I completely forgot that we reviewed that album. So I
Yeah,
suppose
yeah.
that fits in, right? There was part of me that wanted to just wave my hand and be like, "Oh, he's just having fun, let him have fun." And then on the other side of me, it was like, "It's not great, but cool." You know, Corey Taylor, if he just wants to have fun and just get in a room with a band and just play rock songs and rock the songs that like bleed into blues and country, then who is he really hurting? I'm not sure how you feel about that type of critique, though, Sam. Like, does his legend status afford us to be able to metaphorically wave our hands and be like, he's having fun, you know, just let him do what he wants to do. Who's he hurting? Does his legend status allow us to do that? Like, if this was, let's think, if this was a James Hetfield solo album, like I'm not saying Corey Taylor is the same level of James Hetfield in terms of frontman or anything like that, but just as a comparison, if it was James Hetfield, could we just wave our hand at it and be like, just let him have fun? Who's he hurting, man? It's 40 minutes of your life, chill.
Well, yeah, yeah. Because if James Hetfield has often gave interviews where he's on a separate note, I fancy giving out a country record, and there's been some Metallica covers that have kind of lent itself to that. And yeah, I think so. I think like when you read through the liner notes, you're reminded that he has 13 albums combined in Slipknot and Stone Sour, 4 best-selling novels, including a New York Times best-selling a book, and this, and a Christmas single, and he appears like on interviews and podcasts and does his own. Yeah, I mean, he's a philanthropist, isn't he? And he just does what he wants. On this though, because I think it's a given that I don't like this. I was pleasantly surprised by this. So I want to just see what you think this means. All right. The fact that I was pleasantly surprised by this, does it mean that it's good? Or does it just mean that I was pleasantly surprised by this in the context of what Corey Taylor's solo record was like before? Do you know what I mean? I don't know the answer to that question, but I was pleasantly surprised because I thought this was going to be terrible. And it's not terrible.
Do you know what? It's not. Joe, this isn't terrible at all. Like, I'm so glad we agree there because I thought this would be borderline debating between me and you in terms of this album because I don't think this album is bad in any stretch, and I actually don't think that you need the metaphorical hand wave and to say just let him have fun. I think this album has literally. I think this album has plenty of merit in its own right, and I really wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting to say that, and I think there's a chance, right? I think there's a chance that's because we disliked the last Slipknot album to the extent that we did, right? So, like Corey Taylor's main element of his career, the latest thing they did, in our opinion, was pretty bad. So what's his side content like that's not the main element of his career, right? But actually, no.
Thinking with that, yeah.
But actually, no. Sam, I think this is a good rock album that has some moments that I find somewhat jarring, but in a general way, I think if Alter Bridge released this album, me and you would say this is a great Alter Bridge album, isn't it? This is the best Alter Bridge album. Sorry, this is the best Alter Bridge have been in a few years. Any thoughts on that statement there? If Alter Bridge released this, we'd say great Alter Bridge album.
Yeah, yeah. I'd also if you just replace the label with Stone Sour, it just slots into Stone Sour, doesn't it?
In a
Like
sense, yeah.
because obviously it doesn't like it's not as heavy as Stone Sour Records, but like Post Traumatic Blues is a good rock song. It's a good rock song, and it's a driving rhythm. And by the way, and I wrote both guitarist names. You might shed some light on this. I don't know who the lead guitarist is out of Kristen
I don't.
Martucci or Zach Throne, but
No, I'm not
whoever
aware.
out of the two of them is the lead guitarist, he's having a whale of a time on this record.
Yeah.
He's really enjoying himself. They let him off the leash, and there's a real rock sleaze to this, and it feels like the whole album feels a little bit like I want to write a Counting Crows song, and that's cool. That's Breath of Fresh Smoke. I want to write a Guns N' Roses song, and that is Talk Sick, which is they've just by the way they've just taken it so easy. If you just re-listen to the riff on this so easy, it's exactly the same. And the single Beyond is Corey Taylor being like, "Do you remember him? I could be him if I wanted to." And then he just does a version of that. And then the rest of it is like, some of it's a bit like you roll your eyes at some of it, like All I Want Is Hate. It's just like a throwaway 2 or 3 minute tune. We Are the Rest is terrible.
Yeah, you know what? The high school, mate, the high school teen chant of "No way it'll beat me, no way away" on "We Are the Rest."
I
did
thought the whole
IRL at
album
that. I
would
was like,
sound
come on,
like
man.
that going in.
Yeah.
So put that of where my expectations are. I was going in thinking the whole thing would be just like a throwaway because CMFT, the first one, was just a bar band fronted by Corey Taylor, and all the songs sounded really similar, apart from Home, which was like this beautiful piano ballad, which is really good. And this has got some real versatility that I just wasn't expecting. Like Dead Flies is a legitimately good song, not just a good rock song. Like you have to put it in a box. It's a legitimately good song. Sometimes I'll change your mind. It's like a nice little song with a punky sort of finish. Punchlines, kind of like a Bon Jovi tune. Like there's a lot of oh, I'll try this, I'll try that, and most of it kind of works. It speaks to the versatility of Corey Taylor, that he really is talented enough to do a 7 out of 10 version of anything within the rocker sphere. And then when you add the fact that his voice still sounds great, I was pleasantly surprised to hear some growling and or screaming and shouting on a bit of this. That was really nice to hear a bit of aggression. And I didn't expect that at all. So I think, I agree with you. I don't think you even need to look at it in the context of like, oh well, it's Corey Taylor, let him do what he wants. I agree with you. In its own right, it's a good rock song. It's a good rock album. It's got some real highlights. It's got some stuff that you can just skip, but whatever. And really, you're right. For an album that, in the grand scheme of Corey Taylor, when Corey Taylor passes away, this album's not even going to make the 13 first paragraphs. It's just not going to be shuttled in there at all. It doesn't matter in the long scale of things, but it just shows that he's a talented bloke. And he's doing side quests now, and he's pretty good at them, and that should be celebrated.
Well, I think that, Sam, with the exception of "We Are the Rest," I suppose the box doesn't really count because it's an intro song. With the exception of "We Are the Rest" and "All I Want Is Hate," I think generally we're looking at a consistently good album here.
Yeah.
I wasn't massive on "Someday I'll Change Your Mind." I kind of felt like for a man with the musical intelligence and experience of Corey Taylor to write a song where basically the entire concept is "These are the days" whoa vocal motif wrapped around like a simple mid-tempo riff. I found that kind of disappointing. With the exception of those 3 songs, I think this is a consistently good album. There is a theme that runs through this album. There's also a theme that runs through the album that we're going to discuss after this. But the general theme is you're guaranteed to get phenomenal guitar playing. And Corey Taylor, he's just got this undeniable, infectious sweep to his chorus vocals that are kind of, you can't escape them. Like even on "We Are the Rest," which I think is is considerably the worst song on the album. Even in that, there's a real power and an oomph to Corey's vocals, especially in the chorus, and that's really the theme. You've got on Midnight, you've got like almost Sinister Gate-esque solo work by the guitarist. Again, I'm not sure whether Christian Martucci or Zach Throne is the lead, but whichever one is, good Lord, what a performance they've put in. I felt like, Punchline, Corey Taylor's love of professional wrestling is well documented. Punchline is the atypical hard rock wrestler entrance song. Admittedly, by this point in the album that Punchline turns up, Corey stretched the heavy rock riff meets amphetic chorus featuring solo shtick to its limit. But in a nutshell, Punchline's another swaggering rock track for the fervor and power vocals. Dead Flies, you mentioned that. I thought it was a superb and apt decision to choose that to finish the record. You get a Maiden-like riff to open, probably my favourite riff on the entire album. It gives you this pyro-demanding, strobe-like flickering chorus from Corey. It's a nice sort of switch up in the middle eight as it descends into an early Stone Sour vibe. Dead Flies is actually one of the few dynamic twists and turns that the album creates, even though there's a mixture of thematic ideas in the album, such as there's a bit of punk in there, there's a bit of blues, and there's a bit of country in there. Really, generally, the songs all stick to the same blueprint, but Dead Flies just kind of switch that up. And I think, Sam, that there's no need to wave our hands at this. This is just a good rock album by a phenomenally talented musician.
Yeah, I can't help but agree with you there. I think, like you say, there are moments of real cheese and cliche and a little bit of stuff where it feels like they've kind of sellotaped a song idea around like a loose vocal and stuff like that. But overall, you're right. This has some real moments of really very good music. The post-traumatic blues, Talk Sick, Beyond Run is really good. Midnight is solid. Sorry Me is solid. Punchline, all right. There's a bit of double kicks at the conclusion, which I thought was nice in isolation, but felt a little bit bolt on in terms of the context of the song. But other than that, like you say, and it concludes with Dead Flies, which is just a really good rock tune, and it's got some weight and power to it. You're right. This confirms a couple of things: is that Corey Taylor is still one of the most versatile and interesting and compelling people in music and compelling people in metal music, and that it's perfectly okay to sort of chase these kind of side quests when you have this level of I don't know, talent and pull and charisma and stuff like that, because there are very few people, I'd imagine, where this would even be remotely compelling. Like, I don't know, like just trying to think of another like really big band, but very few lead vocalists who I'd be interested in would be like, hey, I'm going to do a solo record and it might have some like sort of soft rock songs on it. It's a very, very, very short list of people that would make me perk up. And even
immediate one that comes to my mind, I'd be kind of interested to see what Dave Grohl does with that. But immediately after I say Dave Grohl, I'm struggling for like rock for like
Spencer Sotelo out of Periphery just for like talent alone. But then again, if Dave Grohl was like, I want to do an album of soft rock songs, you mean like Foo Fighters, then Dave. But
hey, that new Foo Fighters album's really good, man. The new Foo Fighters album's really good.
I can't say anything. So,
dead good, dude. You'd love it.
I'm just taking pot shots without any knowledge, as is my disposition. Let's be honest. But yeah, Corey Taylor's got a pretty unique charisma that lends itself really nicely to these kind of projects, and this is another example of his ability to be able to literally pull a good rock album seemingly out of nowhere, and all credit to him for that.
Right, that'll close off our review of Corey Taylor's CM2. A reminder, it's out on September 5th via BMG/Decibel Cooper Recordings. An album that I think, if you're a Slipknot fan, listen to it because there are elements of Slipknot in there, as well as you love most of the Slipknot choruses, don't you? And Corey Taylor is phenomenal on the chorus, and there's loads of great choruses on this record. I think that's a good place to leave off episode 134 of the Noizze podcast. A reminder that the best way to support us is by subscribing /liking/following, depending on the podcast service that you use, whether that is YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc. You can follow us on Twitter at Noizze Podcast, or if you want to follow the general Noizze handle, you can follow us at Noizze UK. A reminder to check out in the description, Satanic Tea Co, a metal band and coffee/tea brand. We don't see that phrase said too often. We're going to be back in approximately 2 weeks' time. I need to double check the release schedule to see what is going to be out in and around that time. But yeah, we'll have another episode out in 14 days there or thereabouts. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your support. It means the world to us. We will see you in 2 weeks. Remember to check out Tesseract's War of Being and Corey Taylor's CM2 on the 15th of September. Thanks for listening. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye.